Purchasing a motor vehicle is the most common large consumer purchase that's made in the United States. Almost everybody has purchased a vehicle in their lifetime, whether it's from a private party, a dealer, or some other seller, maybe online, maybe eBay, maybe Craigslist. Unlike purchasing a home, which is not as common, most people maybe will purchase a home once or twice in their life. Some people never purchase a piece of real estate, but almost everybody purchases a vehicle. And unlike purchasing, a shirt at Walmart, it's a significant amount of money that we're talking about. Now, most vehicles are purchased through a licensed dealer. You're going to see dealerships advertising cars, displaying cars in your hometown, and those dealerships are all licensed by some licensing authority in your state. Typically, it's the Department of Motor Vehicles. Sometimes there's a separate licensing division in your state. And the important thing to be aware of with licensing is it provides you some protection and some recourse should something go wrong with the purchase. The most important thing about purchase of a vehicle is getting the title to the vehicle. And there are other problems that happen. Sometimes vehicle condition. You may buy a car that's a lemon. You may buy a car that is mechanically defective, especially used cars. Those are maybe more common, but they don't have as much oversight from the licensing division. The most important thing about the licensing division is getting a title and improper advertising, misleading advertising, fraudulent advertising. And today we're going to talk about getting a title because in theory, it shouldn't be that hard. You go to a dealership, you give them money, and they give you the title. But more frequently, there are dealers having problems getting a title to the buyer. And why is that? You would think that a dealer would know what to do about getting a title. They're not selling stolen cars. They're not selling cars that they don't legally own, but there's big title problems. Here's an example of a large-scale title problem you may have heard of. The retailer Carvana is having problems all over the country in all 50 states with getting titles for consumers, for their clients. And in Colorado, there was an interview with the Department of Revenue, which is the division in that state that oversees car dealers, saying it's a really important issue. Some of these online companies, they're moving cars so quickly that they haven't done their due diligence behind the scenes to make sure they have clear title before they sell a car. And this person says it's a systematic issue with Carvana. What that means is it's happening more frequently. His agency received complaints from half the 64 counties in the state about Carvana's paperwork problems. Why is that? As an online disruptor type car seller, Carvana has recreated the dealership retailing model to allow sales all over the country. They deliver cars. And having that wider range sometimes makes it difficult to get titles in people's hands. So first we're going to talk about what's your recourse if you have a title problem, and then we're going to talk about why it happens. In every state, there is a complaint form that you can file with the licensing board. Here is a complaint form example from Oregon. We'll look at one also from Texas. And if you notice on each of these forms, it tells you that one of the questions is no title received. On Texas form, it says, did you receive a paper tag, or how many paper tags did you receive? Did you get your metal plates? And the reason why is because while the title is in process, a dealer is allowed to issue paper temporary tags. You've seen them on the back of cars. That is a temporary registration issued to allow you to drive your car on the road before your final title is issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles or the licensing division. If the dealership is having problems getting the title transferred to you, they might give you a second paper tag, because each paper tag is only usable for 30, sometimes 45 days. So if they're running into delays, they might issue a second paper tag. Well, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to give a second tag for the same vehicle. And some online retailers, we showed an article for Carvana, but we're not trying to pick on them. There's other retailers that have the same problem, are having difficulty getting title. So if that's the case, it's important as quickly as possible to file whatever complaint form is available in your state to get the ball rolling on an investigation. Because, as you know, government agencies don't always work at the speed of light. They do a great job, but it may take them a while. So the sooner you get your investigation in, the sooner they'll get around to it. And that complaint will ask you, was it a dealer? Was it an unlicensed dealer? Your contact information, the vehicle information. You notice that this form from Oregon has place for 5 vehicles. Maybe you had problems with more than one. And you check off a box. No title received, no registration received. Dealer did not provide me with documents to obtain title. If you notice, a lot of this has to do with title. Texas, same thing, has to do with title registration. There may be other reasons to complain about a dealer, but those are the main ones. Get this form filled out and submitted as soon as possible. Get the enforcement division on your side as fast as possible. Here is check all that apply. Dealer has not transferred title to my name and I have not received plates. Check the box. Explain below. Part of the agreement that you have with that dealer when you give them the money is not only that they give you the car and the keys, they have to transfer the ownership by title. And if they don't, it puts you in a bad spot because you can't register it, can't drive it. If you have a loan on it with a bank, the bank's going to be looking for the title, and they might cancel your loan or convert it to a personal loan, which will have a higher interest rate. So, first thing to do is get your form in as soon as possible to the enforcement division. Then keep in contact with the dealer. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let them try to work on your title, but tell them it's important. Keep the pressure on. Don't let them forget about your title problem. Keep communicating with them. So, what is going on with titles behind the scenes? Well, from conversations with dealers, auctions, lenders, and DMV employees, the picture is very clear. As these online retailers are expanding very quickly and selling massive volumes of vehicles as fast as they can, they're sometimes overlooking the details of vehicle title documents. An established dealer that has been around for 20, 30 years, that has a location, that sells to the local community, they know how to do titles. They've been doing titles for 20 years. It's a tricky business to be in car titles. And a dealer has established that procedure. An online retailer who came in from the outside of the car business that doesn't really know the mechanics of it or the logistics of paperwork sometimes isn't aware of how difficult title paperwork is. They just figure, well, we'll get the car here, we'll park it over here, we'll put it online, we'll sell it. Boom, keep the cars moving. And if the company is a public company, stock market company with shareholders, they are kind of in obligation to the shareholders to sell cars at a high volume. They have to move cars as fast as they can because the shareholders are demanding high sales rates. In fact, the share price of most stocks is based on future increased sales. So if you don't meet your sales growth, the stock's going to go down and you might not be able to get financing. So the companies do everything they can just to move more cars, even if they don't have the title yet, even if they're not sure if they're going to get the title. And that's putting pressure on consumers. So where do these cars come from? Well, if you're an online retailer like Carvana, who does not sell new cars, you don't really get a lot of trade-in vehicles. If you're a new car dealer, a Honda dealer on the corner of Main Street, and you sell new Hondas, well, most people that buy a new Honda are going to trade in an older vehicle, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years old. Well, that trade-in now becomes your used car inventory. Fix it up, make sure it's good, recondition it, and sell it. If you're Carvana and do not sell new cars, every single one of your used cars you have to purchase from somewhere. Most of that somewhere is auto auctions. And when you buy a car from an auto auction, the seller may be a rent-a-car company, it may be a bank that repossessed the car, it may be another dealer who took a trade-in that they don't want to put on their lot. A lot of places that these come from. And in many cases, the title is not physically at the auction on the day of the sale. The seller just ships the car, and at some point they'll mail the title. Because if you mail the title to the auction, it might get lost if it's sitting there. And titles are hard to replace. It's not just you can make a photocopy. So a lot of times a dealer will hold the title in their drawer. They'll bring the car to the auction. Once it's sold, then they process the title. Sometimes the dealer doesn't even have the title yet because they paid off a loan for the customer who traded it in, and they're waiting to get it from the bank. So it's like a game of musical chairs. The title might change from bank to dealer to trade-in to auction to the buyer. And each one of those transfers may take some time, and it might get lost in the shuffle. We estimate that 10 to 15%, maybe 20% of titles that go through the auctions get lost, damaged, misplaced. Sometimes they get lost in the mail, or FedEx, or UPS doesn't get delivered properly. And with a company like Carvana that has more than one location, maybe it gets sent to the wrong Carvana location and misdirected. In the meantime, this poor buyer now has purchased a vehicle that they're driving around with, and they don't have a title, and they don't have a registration, and their bank is bugging them about the fact that their loan is not secured by collateral with a title. So what does that mean for buyers? Well, number one is if you're buying a vehicle, ask about the location of the title before you give money or sign paperwork. Do they have it? Yep. Okay, good. Show it to me. Well, if they have the title, they should be able to show it to you. Second is if you've purchased a vehicle, within a week of purchase, we recommend asking the dealer, hey, has my title application been submitted yet to the DMV to get me a new title? Yes or no? If it has, good. Give me a receipt. Show me a copy of that application being processed. If after 30 days you don't see permanent metal plates or your title come to you in the mail, we recommend checking with the titling division of your state, the DMV, directly. Don't take the dealer's word for it. Whoever the dealer is, Carvana or anybody else. Go to the DMV yourself and say, look, my name is so-and-so. I bought this vehicle. Here's my purchase order. Here's my ID. Can you tell me if a title's in the works for this vehicle? They're either going to tell you, yeah, it's applied for. We're just running late. Okay, that's legitimate. Or they might say, we have no idea anything about this vehicle. Nobody has ever applied for a title for this vehicle as far as we know. In that case, you might take a different action. You might start looking for one of those complaint forms. The most important thing is not to be in a position where your back is against the wall, where you have purchased a vehicle, you can't drive it, got invalid plates, your loan payments are still due, and you have to get back and forth to work somehow, or bring your kids to school or to soccer practice. And without a valid vehicle with a good title, you can't do any of those things. And your old vehicle's gone. Whatever vehicle you had before, either you got rid of it because it was broken, or you sold it or traded it in when you bought the new one. So you don't have that to fall back on. You bought that new vehicle for a reason. And if the title paperwork is in limbo somewhere, you're going to be stuck. Now, there's some title issues that are very difficult to resolve. If that car came from an auction and the title's been lost or damaged or ripped or somebody spilled coffee on it, that title can't be used to transfer to your name. And it's very difficult to get another one because that title instrument, that title document, is an original document. You can't use a photocopy, and you can't get a replacement of it. The dealer you bought it from can't get a replacement. The auction cannot get a replacement. The only person in the world who can get a replacement is the person whose name was last printed on the title. That last driver of that car. Might have been 3-4 months earlier. Was there a driver for that car? That car may have been off the road for 3 months while it went through the auction process. And that last driver is the only person in the world that can get a duplicate replacement title directly. And their interest in doing that is not really that great. They already sold it. They got their money. They forgot all about this car. It's been 3 months. It's not my problem. Why are you calling me? So now the dealer, which is, let's say, Joe Schmo car dealership, who sold you the car, they have to figure out how are we going to get another title. And there are some processes to do it, but they require a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. They take a long time. And unless the dealer knows exactly how to go through that process, they might fail the first time. They might fill out the paperwork wrong because it's not common. People don't do this all the time, and the DMV is a little bit picky about giving somebody a title without having the old title. So they scrutinize everything. Heavy duty scrutinization. So if you're a car buyer, don't take the title transfer for granted. If it goes smoothly like it does 80% of the time, great. If it doesn't, like maybe 20% of the time, you may find that according to this one article, it's systemic within this particular company. That's their opinion. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. Another issue is it says state lacks enforcement authority. There's a gray area. What if you live in, let's say, Colorado, but you bought the car from a location in Texas? Who do you complain to? If you complain to your state, well, that dealer's not licensed in your state, so they may not have authority. If you complain to Texas, the dealer's there, but they might not have authority because you are not a resident of Texas. So you might run into like a catch-22, like hot potato. They try to pass the buck from one to the other. So if you do have a title problem, start with these forms. Hopefully it doesn't require legal action like with an attorney, because that gets expensive. But don't take it for granted that your title is just going to magically show up. Stay on top of it. Trust that the dealer probably is going to help you, but notice as early as you can that there's problems so you can start taking action, so you can actually drive your car and not look at it like it's collecting dust in your driveway.